Welcome. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Good. Welcome to Last Man. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Terry.
So, we're going to get into some things today. And Derek and I talked about this a little bit, but the news on a few different topics is, I don't know. I know you'll identify with this. I think that a lot of conservatives, particularly those like us that were moderate and, kind of straddling the fence between liberal and conservative, that are now watching things. It's like almost there's this sense of exhaustion, maybe, where it's like we feel like was already decided. We don't want the election to last another 4 years, and we don't want it to be this constant onslaught. We're seeing things change, and I think there's been a hope that cooler heads would prevail, but the propaganda arm on the left side seems to have just spun up into overtime instead of how would you say it? Learning their lesson and calming down and realizing what they did. They're just doing more of it. It seems like.
Yeah, it's like they were, I don't know, like they've amplified everything.
Yeah.
And they are pulling things out of the cabinets and saying, oh, well, you did this and
right.
you were part of this, movement. And
I don't like how you picked that up or how you set that down. Right.
Right. Exactly. Just overly sensitive and trying to incite and bring to light things that don't exist.
Right.
Just they're fictitious.
Yeah.
And and maybe there is some small demographic that might, be in line with what you're saying, but ultimately it's a distraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
For us moving forward, you're distracting us all with all this BS, essentially.
Yeah.
And it is exhausting. I've tried to hop into chats to talk with people about politics, my perspective, and they keep pulling the race card.
Right.
And racism and white supremacy and all of this.
Yeah, there's
stuff.
A lot of that floating around right now. Accusations of just outright racism. It's wild.
Exactly.
But with the birthright, I mean, the attack on the birthright claim, and it's like no, birthright citizenship. It's like no, I don't know. We Derek and I did a deep dive on that, so it's driving me. It's driving me wild. I don't guess I expected them to stop doing what they've been doing, and I don't want this to be so. I don't want people to be like, oh, of course they're going to say that they're conservatives, but I mean, at a certain line, wouldn't you say, okay, things are changing? There's going to be, at least give them a chance to cook, right? At least see what's going to happen. They began impeachment proceedings on day 17. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the nominees, they've challenged every one of them. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk about you.
No, I agree. It's wasteful.
Yeah, it is a complete. I think, and I'm gonna. This is just an opinion, but I think what we're seeing are all of the people that have protected the system because of the cover that the bureaucracy provides for things that they don't want exposed and brought into the light of day. Those are the people that are screaming the loudest. Mm-hmm. That's why we see the same people that are at USAID, and then the next day they're at the Treasury, and then the next day they're at the Department of Education, and they're screaming fascist and anything they can. And I think I can't help but imagine that even a lot of the Democrats are like, well, what are they going to show? Right? What are they going to find? Why are you so scared? Because I don't know that you can stop it now. That's one of the topics we'll get into. But let's dive into the first one, right? So let's check a video. This is going to be on Kash Patel. So they've delayed his confirmation hearing. Let's see what they think. Here, let me close a couple of these out real fast. This and this. Yeah. All right.
Senators on the Judiciary Committee were set to vote on advancing Kash Patel's nomination to lead the FBI Thursday, but that's now been delayed. Democrats used the panel's rules to push the vote back a week. The committee's ranking member, Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, explained why he's questioning whether Patel is right for the position.
We have an individual in Kash Patel who has published a book which in detail describes his view of politics in America. It is a book that is filled with grievances, filled with conspiracy theories, and filled with information of how he sided with the January 6 rioters.
Let's bring in CBS News congressional reporter Torian Small. Torian, does this delay have any impact on whether Patel is ultimately confirmed? And are you seeing a change in how Democrats are approaching President Trump's nominees?
Well, Lindsay, I'll start by saying I haven't seen any significant reservations from Republicans. It appears Patel has the full support of the Republican conference, meaning if 4 don't defect, he's likely to eventually get to a floor vote and ultimately be confirmed. What I'm seeing Democrats, though, is shift their strategy. So Grassley did invoke the minority party's right to prolong this. So he's pushing it off until next Thursday for a potential committee vote. But during that time, Democrats are saying that they're looking to introduce not just their Republican colleagues, where they're unlikely to sway their minds on Patel, but America at large to who Patel is. I talked to Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, and he told me that Democrats have demands. They want to get more on his testimony to a grand jury in the Trump classified documents case. They also want to see the second volume of Jack Smith's report on that case as well. And then ultimately, they're looking for a second hearing from Patel. They want to revisit some of his questions. But as we talked that out, he told me that it's unlikely Grassley will ultimately cave to those demands.
Also on Capitol Hill, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with lawmakers in the wake of President Trump's proposal to take over Gaza. How serious?
Okay. So, this just feels like delay tactics, right? It feels like they're doing whatever they can to delay it. And and I think they made a good point that they may not be able to stop it, but they can delay it. They can keep saying, well, we want more, we want more. Have you read his book?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. I think I'm going to fix that between now and the next time we discuss this topic, because I would like to be able to speak to that. I wonder whether it really is a book filled with conspiracy theories or whether they're conspiracy theories that are likely to be true. I mean, this is we're talking about the same group of people that called RFK anti-vaxxer and a conspiracy nut and all of that. So I'd say that, what did you say the first time my BS meter has been upgraded, right? It's it's not so reactive any longer. Speaking of which, with all of the hysteria that's going on, which I don't think Derek and I did get into USAID, and we sort of dissected what USAID does and what they don't do, but that said, without getting into some of it, let's look at the next one. This is Jon Stewart, which I got to even give him credit. I typically am not a big fan of Jon Stewart, but this one, it's the most palatable I've seen him.
But this is the cycle we find ourselves in. First law of Trumpodynamics. Every action is met with a very not equal overreaction.
These pardons are sick. They are offensive. They are un-American.
This is one of the most egregious, despicable acts in American history.
This is textbook authoritarian takeover 101.
I knew I should have taken that class. And not majored in submissive liberal crying 101. Oh. Is it an abuse of pardon power? I don't know. But that is his constitutional power. Again, for some reason, we have given presidents the power of a king. And then we say, oh, by the way, with that power, you're not going to get all like kingly and shit on us, right?
That's part-time host and occasional funny man Jon Stewart calling out Democrats and establishment media for their incessant hypocrisy and fear-mongering about Donald Trump and the Republicans. Welcome to Nurk News, I'm Nurkish, and it looks like it's one of those rare times when the left goes so far that even liberals like Jon Stewart are forced to point out their lies, which have been almost too many to count since the start of President Trump's second term. Here's Stewart slamming top Democrats and the media for doing the only thing they know how to do: try to terrify Americans into doing what they want them to.
The return to 1600 Trumpylvania Avenue was as disorienting and chaotic as I imagined. But then we had a weekend. Serenity now. And we can finally catch our breath, begin to move forward with intentionality. Namaste.
The words forward.
Friday night massacre.
Late Friday night purge. A chilling purge.
The Purge.
Ah! Trump has ushered in the purge! I, for one, will take full advantage. Although, just in case I'm misinterpreting, what is this purge about exactly?
Breaking news, the mass firing of government agency watchdogs.
Trump fired at least 17 inspectors general.
No! He got rid of 17 inspectors general. That only leaves no one knows how many left. I have no idea.
Right.
What Trump did violated the law. He can't just fire these people.
Title V, Section 403 of the U.S. Code, federal law, an inspector general may be removed by the president.
What? So what's the purge? What's the Why do I have an axe?
There is a specific law that requires notice, 30 days, and a statement of reasons, substantive and detailed rationale.
What? I'm sorry, what? Oh, apparently you can fire them, but you have to give them 30 days notice.
Right.
Oh, so that's what we're upset about? No! You can do it, but not in that font! That's Hitler's font!
You know, just like Bill Maher, Stewart only seems to see the problems of big government when a member of the opposing party is holding office. I mean, kudos to him for acknowledging it, but the expansion of executive power has been something conservatives have been complaining about for decades. None of this should come as a surprise because it's no secret that Democrats have no impulse control and can't delay gratification. I mean, this wouldn't be the first time that they've done something for short-term gain that later bit them in the butt when Republicans took power and wielded it against them.
Look, we are facing a deluge of these executive actions, and certainly we must be prepared for those most vulnerable to the consequences of these actions. But the "this is all fascist" argument has become almost a reflex for the left.
Donald Trump promised to be a dictator on day one, and he's carried that forward through the entire week.
5 days into this administration, the abuse is already rampant.
On a fascism scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being peak fascism, how would you rate Trump's first week?
I clearly don't understand what fascism is.
On a scale of Mussolini to the Holocaust. I would say it's not fascism. Do I not understand what fascism is? Republicans control the House, the Senate, the executive, and the judiciary. And just about every move that has been made till this point, we have granted them electorally. It's our f***ing fault. And the constant it's just our fault. And the constant drumbeat of encroaching fascism will erode the credibility we will need if, hopefully if, and not when, it hits.
Bingo.
But the truth is that for now, his most objectionable actions have taken place almost entirely within our designed democratic system. There was no authoritarian end run, no royal edicts. This shit happened to us as designed.
I've got to admit that it is a little funny how the party that claimed to love and protect democracy can't seem to handle the system working as intended. I mean, it's just like Stewart pointed out. Despite all their hysterics about Trump being a threat to democracy, it was their beloved system that got him elected and allowed him to wield so much power, which puts Democrats in a weird situation where they need to crap or get off the pot. Because at the end of the day, it's either Stewart is right and the system is healthy and working as intended, or it's so flawed and has been from its inception that its own mechanisms led to its inevitable downfall, which raises the question of why use the system in the first place. And call me crazy, but I think based on everything they've been expressing, Democrats are going to lean towards choosing the latter. But let me know what you think. Which direction will the left move in the next 4 years? Well,
ridiculousness.
Yeah, shout out to what's his name? Nurkish?
Nurk News.
Yeah, Nurk News. It's the first time I've seen him, but yeah, he makes a solid point.
Yeah.
It's wild. This is definitely a boy who cried wolf situation. And
Absolutely.
that's as I've seen these things, the more outlandish they are, and as I sit back just going, what? It's like, you're going to be so loud and so demonstrative and so irrational that everybody's just going to how can people not see eventually that we can't continue to listen to this? But I don't know. I think there's only a percentage of it that matriculates through to everybody. But
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we see the BS, but there's a lot of people that look at them as telling the truth, preaching the truth.
Right.
And it's like it's sad. I wish I could break through and just
Yeah. And I have conversations with people like that. A number of my left-leaning friends, they're not digging through it like you and I are, right? We're not researching topics, trying to it's just a different level of analysis. They're looking at it in between the weather and the local news report in the mornings, and they're hearing these things, and a lot of them don't continue to dig. I don't know, but it's just wild because they are making a lot of noise. Which brings us to the next topic, right? Which is Musk.
Oh yeah.
And Doge, the Doge father. It's so ridiculous. But let's check this out.
Mr. President, I wonder what you make of the criticism from Democrats that these staff reductions, the cuts that Elon Musk and Doge are doing are an unlawful power grab. And is there anything you've told Elon Musk he cannot touch?
Well, we haven't discussed that much. I'll tell him to go here, go there. He does it. He's got a very capable group of people. Very, very capable. They know what they're doing. They'll ask questions, and they'll see immediately as somebody gets tongue-tied that they're either crooked or don't know what they're doing. We have very smart people going in. So I've instructed him, go into education, go into military, go into other things as we go along. And they're finding massive amounts of fraud, abuse, waste, all of these things. So,
yes.
But I will pick out a target, and I say go in.
And you think they're screaming now, wait till they get to the military, to the DOD.
Yes.
That's going to, if they're flipping over Department of Education and USAID.
There could be areas that we won't, but I think everything's fertile. We're a government. We have to be open. And as an open government, I don't know, I guess you could say maybe some high intelligence or something. And I'll do that myself if I have to.
Right.
But generally speaking,
and there will probably
I'll just
be things
say
like that.
Go. But he will be looking at education pretty quickly, and he will be looking at military too.
The bulk of federal spending is Social Security, Medicare, programs like that. Would you like to see him look at those programs as well?
Well, they don't really have to be looked at by him. They can be looked at by us. Social Security will not be touched. It'll only be strengthened. We have illegal immigrants on Social Security, and we're going to find out who they are and take them out. We have illegal immigrants in other Medicare. We found a lot of bad people, a lot of people that shouldn't be on, that were put on through California. A lot of them come out of California. We're not going to stand for that. So we're going to strengthen our Social Security, et cetera. We're not going to touch it other than to make it stronger. but we have people that shouldn't be on, and those people we have to weed out. Most of them, or many of them so far, have been illegal immigrants. They shouldn't even be in the country. Do you have a question?
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that there was a lot of fertile territory when looking for a segment for this topic, because there are so many of Democratic senators and congressmen out, protesting and saying, everything from AOC saying that he's just unintelligent and the people that work for him are not bright, which, if that's not a pot and kettle situation, but I decided not to, just because they're so negative and they're so prevalent. You can find them anywhere. There is one, however, because a judge did move to stop him. Now, one thing to point out is he has read-only access, right?
Right.
That means that he can't make changes. He's not firing people. He's not,
Right.
This is being done through the executive branch. So this is Trump doing it. And he's just basically performing an audit. And so the question is, why are there so many people that are so resistant to audit? And
I think people are, I don't want to use the word that I'm thinking right now, but there's a capacity issue, I think.
Yeah.
They don't understand the terminology. They don't understand what read-only and suggestions means.
I don't know.
Yeah,
you think?
Do you think Elon really wants to look at my social security number and yours and well, he come on.
No.
This is about bloating in the system that he's trying to cut out of the system. We all know how budgeting works. Allocations are made to movements or whatever, bureaucracies or whatever, and if they don't meet or exceed their budget, the budget gets cut.
Right. So they endeavor to meet the budget or exceed it.
They have an incentive to keep spending the money and getting the check signed.
It's use it or lose it.
Exactly.
That's right, which is horribly inefficient.
Absolutely.
You couldn't run private companies like that because they're running on a profit motive. This is a bureaucracy. So but the requirement is transparency. You have to be able to see where it's going in order to account for it. And so let's look at the judge, and just the statement is inflammatory, asking if Musk is staging a coup. It's absurd.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. The top-ranking career U.S. Treasury Department official, David LeBrick, has been forced out of the agency after he resisted a demand by Elon Musk and his associates at Doge to gain access to the government's vast payment system, which disperses trillions of dollars in federal payments each year. Trump's new Treasury Secretary, the billionaire Scott Bessent, ended up giving Musk access to the system, which includes sensitive information about taxpayers, Social Security recipients, government contractors, including Musk's rivals. Musk is also accused of waging a takeover at the Office of Personnel Management, where career civil servants have been locked out of computer systems. For more, we're joined by two guests. Waleed Shahid is Democratic strategist. His new piece on Substack is headlined, "Elon Musk is staging a coup." Waleed was previously the spokesperson for Justice Democrats and former senior advisor for the campaigns of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jamal Bowman. We're also joined in Washington, D.C. by Lindsay Owens, executive director of the Groundwork Collaborative, who says there are several reasons Musk wants to control Treasury payments. None of them are...
Okay, let's fact check for a moment. He is not going to be controlling Treasury payments.
Right.
He is going to be providing a report of Treasury payments. Not the same thing. Just to clarify, because they've made a number of inflammatory statements, right? Like he's staging a coup, or he's going, and the guy that's about to come on is about to make it even worse.
Waleed Shahid, let's begin with you. What do you mean that Elon Musk is staging a coup?
So if this story was taking place somewhere in Central Asia or in Africa, the United States media, the United States State Department, international institutions would likely refer to this as a coup. A billionaire industrialist who donated $300 million to a campaign is installing his personal loyalists in key parts of the federal bureaucracy. This is essentially Viktor Orban's playbook.
I'm still sitting here on the edge of wanting to shut this guy up because it's so ridiculous and wanting everybody to hear how ridiculous it is. So I'm kind of teetering right on the edge.
You need to know, why does a billionaire industrialist with millions in government contracts, military contracts for his private companies
he's been
need
advising
the social
AOC,
security numbers of every American, needs to know what every single check that the U.S. government gives out to businesses, to charities? Why does this billionaire need to know this information?
Because it's called an audit. That's the definition of an audit. I think you should Google the word audit, because he doesn't seem to understand the concept. And that makes sense, that we have a bureaucracy that does not understand the concept of an audit. That makes a lot of sense with $36 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
And a, $4 trillion, $5 trillion spending deficit. And, oh gosh, it's crazy. I mean, yeah. So I've heard enough of this gentleman. If that's okay, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to pile any more stupid on. But
yeah, I get it. Because I mean, in our condition, in the country's financial condition, technically we are bankrupt. We're
beyond
bankrupt. We're in chapter.
Yes.
I was going to say chapter 13. No, this is chapter 7.
We're lucky the bookies haven't kneecapped us. It's dangerous, yes. Yeah, and it would have to be a restructure, because otherwise you're going to do what you can do, asset liquidation. What are we going to do to shore up $36 trillion?
Right. The country doesn't have relatives that we can all move to.
Right.
Right. No.
And I know it's not that direct, but still, the fact remains. Trump. I heard in a press conference he was giving. He actually used the word attempting to balance the budget. You know how long it's been since we've had a president talking about balancing the budget and actually meaning it. Yeah. So
wasn't it Clinton?
Clinton's the last one I remember. Mm-hmm. That's the last time I recall hearing it. Now I'm sure it's probably been said, tossed around a couple, like we need to balance the budget. But Clinton, that was a campaign promise of Clinton's. Mm-hmm. That was one of the reasons that I voted for. I was in the military at the time, and not only was he good to the military, but he wasn't the breed of Democrat that seems to be so prevalent these days. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, so next, moving on, Pam Bondi and her first steps. Let's take a look at this.
All right.
Pam Bondi has not wasted any time implementing her agenda in her first days as Attorney General. Among other things, she has ordered a review of the prosecutions against President Trump and froze funding for sanctuary cities. Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen joins us now. Jake, great to see you. So walk us through what she's already done in her very short time at the top of DOJ, particularly when it comes to sanctuary cities and diversity initiatives.
Yeah, and just like what Trump put in an executive order on his first day in office, across all of government, Pam Bondi on her first day, first hour, she signed a big slate of memos, first of which eliminated DEI inside the Department of Justice, like we've seen all of the new departments heads do, but also outside the department, right? Kind of rolling back some of what those more progressive or liberal prosecution ideas were for the Biden administration to go after more hate crimes or racially charged things, environmental justice, which is another thing that the Biden administration made a really big point of. But again, when you talk about what Pam Bondi really did was align with the Trump administration and worldview on immigration. There was an executive order to, quote, totally eliminate the cartels. So that's a very difficult task. But what she says across what the DOJ is going to do is shift resources away from things like going after foreign influence in American politics and rolling back task forces that have been in place for 5-10 years on that to really focus on rooting out cartels, going after harsher penalties for illegal immigrants who commit crimes. You'll remember that subway murder when the illegal immigrant lit a woman on fire. She wrote in that memo that under her administration and Donald Trump's administration, they expect there to be a death penalty sought in cases like those, in addition to potential deaths of law enforcement under the Trump administration as well.
Wow, so a major shift in priorities. I want to play some sound for you from our Scott McFarland, because he spoke exclusively with a current FBI agent who worked on January 6th cases and now is worried about retribution from the Trump administration, and especially at DOJ and the FBI. Let's take.
Now, before we listen to that, I want to point out that he just did a fairly decent job of describing it without fear-mongering, right? Yeah. He described it without using words like fascism or racism or discrimination or anything. He lined out a very accurate description of what she's doing. She's rolling back policies that are not, cogent with the administration and its goals. as would be expected. So I just want to point out that was
amazing.
That was a great explanation, and I appreciated it.
Take a listen to that.
What was it like filling out that questionnaire? Saying what you did and when you did it?
Really demoralizing. Defeated. We all feel defeated. And really for nothing. We just don't have backs.
How widespread are the concerns that FBI agent is describing?
Extremely widespread. And in a court hearing today, between some of those FBI agents and the FBI Agents Association, which are suing the Department of Justice right now to kind of preserve that name of those agents who worked on the January 6th and Trump-related investigations, the attorneys repeatedly laid out through over 5 hours of hearings today how worried they are for their clients' safety kind of in this environment that we're living in, but also were any further details, not just necessarily in this case, but once Kash Patel, if and when he gets confirmed, what he might further do. They're extremely worried, especially when you have people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump who have not been afraid to kind of release and prod and push more information about these agents and people out online.
Right, and so many of these agents were just assigned to...
Okay, so I want to point out that this is a chain of command problem, right? This is when you're in the military, if you're given an order to do something, you don't let the soldiers take the fall as a result of that. And I don't think that's what anybody's advocating. I think what they're saying is we want to know if the situation is that people's civil rights were violated, that people were not afforded due process, that people were jailed illegally. We want to know if that's the situation. And I don't know why these agents would be so concerned about having their names on it. I mean, it's their work. It's what they do.
Right. Follow orders.
Right.
Yeah. Chain of command. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know.
And they've asked Kash his perspective and what he plans on doing. He said that, I mean, he agrees with it. It's a chain of command. They're doing their job.
Yeah, and these are chain of command problems. It's not going to be, if it turns out that they were just following orders, even if they did something that violated the civil rights or the law, those were their orders. Mm-hmm. They are not the ones that have consequences to pay for that. So,
and the uniformity and swiftness to what they've done. I mean, these are thousands of people.
Right.
You know, they literally did the same thing that locked up the people, same considerable amount of time. Mm-hmm. So it came from the top.
Yes, and I think there should be an emphasis on the fact that they're not attempting to do it in the way that it was done. So this isn't retribution. They're attempting to fix the process and make sure the process is working correctly.
Right.
So, but yeah, so that's what I think should be more in focus, right? Is the concept of, look, it's obvious to us that people's rights were violated. It's obvious that laws were broken. We need to hold the people accountable. That doesn't mean the person that was following orders is going to go to jail because they followed the orders of their superior, agent in charge, or president, or secretary of the army, whoever it was, right? And I'm not just trying to pull names out of a hat. I'm saying that our military and Department of Justice are structured hierarchically for a reason. Mm-hmm. And so the system can handle this without just wantonly throwing people in jail the way that it appears they've been doing.
Right.
So
we're better than that.
Agreed. And we have to restore confidence. So I agree. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was one of the things that was so wild, was that apparently it was 40% of FBI agents were being tasked to work on January 6 cases. Mm-hmm. And those are the ones that it's not, I don't think it's that they necessarily want to know the agent that handled the case. They want the casework. They want to know who was responsible. And that means this agent reported to this agent, reported to this agent, reported to this supervisor, so on and so forth. So that's what I take it to mean. Mm-hmm. And from what I've seen of Trump and his administration, that's what I would expect. I would expect it to be above board. So,
yep.
Next, Trump. revoking Biden's
Breaking
security
tonight,
clearance.
just in the past minute or so, President Trump is now revoking the security clearances for former President Biden. President Trump saying on Truth Social moments ago, quote, "There is no need for Joe Biden to continue receiving access to classified information. Therefore, we are immediately revoking Joe Biden's security clearances and stopping his daily intelligence briefings." He set this precedent in 2021 when he instructed the intelligence community, IC, to stop the 45th president of the United States, me, from accessing details on national security, a courtesy provided to former presidents. The Hur report revealed that Biden suffers from, quote, "poor memory, and even in his prime could not be trusted with sensitive information. I will always protect our national security. Joe, you're fired. Make America great again." Again, a Truth Social.
Wow. Wow. Of course, they're painting it as this is just, reciprocal lashing out.
Which that is a part of it.
That's probably
for sure,
probably valid, but I don't think my views on Biden I haven't been tight-lipped about them. I think there's a chance that some highly treasonous things occurred, and and I don't disagree. Now, is it setting a bad precedent? A bad precedent? I don't know. It could be, but time will tell. He's been blocked out for the last 4 years as well. I don't know. But it's within his power. It's the power we gave him.
Yep.
All right. Why don't you take the last one, and then we'll get into the larger discussion.
Okay, yeah, sure. So this next clip we have, there's additional footage of the DC plane crash.
Okay.
And apparently the people that released the footage have been arrested.
Okay.
So let's check out what they're talking about.
Okay.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. Let's say you're a cop, you're looking for a mass murderer, you think you've pulled him over, and you knock on the window, and you say, "Can I look in the trunk of your car? Might be a body back there." And the driver says, "Yeah, absolutely. Here's the keys. I'll go back there with you. You'll find my sneakers and a tennis ball." And your suspicion levels will immediately go down. But let's say the driver instead starts profusely sweating, locks the door, starts shaking, won't respond, and then peels out and drives away. You're like, hold on. I think cat caught a mouse, right? Like, I think I got it. This person is acting incredibly suspicious. This person is trying to hide something from me. This is what people naturally believe when you try and conceal and hide a crime. They say, wait a second, you're guilty, obviously, especially in the case of murder. And that is what we saw in the skies over Washington, D.C. just a few nights ago, when a military helicopter murdered 67 people inside of a commercial aircraft, in the deadliest commercial aircraft crash in 20 years. Horrible to watch. Why haven't we found out all of the information about this crash? Like, millions of Americans fly every single year. We are entitled to know as much as we possibly can about why this happened. But ladies and gentlemen, the people who actually released the footage that I just showed you to CNN, they've been arrested. Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen. The individuals who were working at the Washington Reagan National Airport where the crash happened were arrested for giving this footage to CNN. Now, maybe they were just trying to make a quick buck. I don't know. But these two individuals got immediately locked up for showing the public what actually happened. That's suspicious. Why didn't you release the footage? Like, this is insane. Why haven't you shown the American public? We pay for you. We pay for the airport, right? Comes from the tax dollars. It was our tax dollars that was flying this Black Hawk helicopter. And who exactly was flying the Black Hawk helicopter? Black Hawk helicopter's a shocking aviation blunder moments before crashing into plane, confirmed in new report. What exactly is the blunder here? Well, apparently, the Black Hawk helicopter was flying not only a mile off course, but 100 feet too high. it was flying in an illegal airspace that it wasn't allowed to be flying in. The official data came as questions mount over how the collision, which killed 67 people, occurred, given the pilots following strict protocol around the altitudes that they can safely fly. Information from air traffic control radar and the black box recovered from the plane show investigators fear that the military chopper was 100 feet above where it was supposed to be. Donald Trump posted on Truth Social something similar to this. That the helicopter was not flying where it was allowed to fly. Reagan National Air Force is notoriously crowded, and it crossed into the airspace between the jets. This helicopter, flown by 28-year-old Captain Rebecca M. Lobach on a routine training exercise, was flying at 300 feet. The maximum altitude permitted is 200, and they were 1.5 miles off course. Now we find even more shocking revelations that have been kept from us up till now. Black Hawk crew was likely wearing night vision goggles at time of DC plane crash. Now, I did a couple phone calls to buddies of mine who served in special forces, and I asked, why would this be important? And they said, go ahead and Google what night vision goggles look like. Well, night vision goggles might be very helpful for hunting individuals in like an open, in a plane, or for searching in rough terrain. They can be really, really cumbersome and problematic inside of an aircraft because of their distortion of light and because they black out your peripheral vision. And so you see effectively tunnel vision through the goggles. It looks kind of like this, right? And so you're not able to see all around you. Now, this may have messed with the Black Hawk crew's ability to see the actual plane until, of course, you see the footage. And you realize that they're just flying right into it.
Yeah.
The goggles, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, obviously, you're not making excuses for this, and we certainly are not. The goggles shouldn't have stopped them from being able to see that giant. I mean, you go back. Look at this. Look at this footage. The plane is shining like a giant burning star in the sky. According to the Special Forces sources that I called, they said that a plane that is lit up like that, and you can see here, it's a good example, like the bright lights in night vision goggles are like searing bright. They're like shining, burning your eyeballs and retinas bright, okay? The bright lights are even brighter. Like even dust light is extremely bright, right? So it's like, this is what bright lights look like on an aircraft carrier right here. So even more so, it gets strange. Like if they were wearing the goggles. The Black Hawk was performing a routine training mission in an effort to renew 28-year-old Captain Rebecca Lobach's annual certifications crashed into an American airline flight, making its final descent into Reagan National Airport. Investigators probing the crash have been focused on whether the soldiers on board were wearing nighttime visual aids when the collision took place. The head of the National Transportation Safety Board confirmed Thursday that the crew were likely adhering to the expected safety guidelines and wearing their goggles. So perhaps there was some type of a distortion. But this is where the true trouble lies. Black Hawk's tracking tech was turned off when it crashed into plane, as mangled wreck is pulled from the Potomac. Vital tracking technology inside of the Army Black Hawk helicopter was turned off for no compelling reason when it collided with the passenger plane over Washington, D.C. last week. The Black Hawk was performing a routine training mission in an effort to renew Captain Lobach's certification. It crashed into the airline. When the chopper went down, the Black Hawk's automatic dependent surveillance broadcast was disabled, a system that shares the aircraft's position, altitude, and speed, New York Times, Ted Cruz told the New York Times on Thursday. The technology also includes a display that shows the pilots the location of other aircrafts, both in the sky and on the runway, and allows for air traffic controllers not just to rely on radar tracking, but to have a delay of a few seconds, according to the USA Today. Military helicopters can turn off the system during a continuity of government missions so nobody can track where the government officials are being flown. Cruz, the Texas Republican, said that that was not the case at the time of the deadly crash. In this instance, the training mission, there was no compelling national security reason for their tracking devices to be turned off, he told The Times, follows a closed-door briefing from the investigation. He noted that the helicopter was equipped with transponder to broadcast its location, but the technology was off. Woof. Ladies and gentlemen, it just gets creepier and creepier. So, this helicopter flies directly in.
Yeah, I don't really understand that because we saw footage of them in communication with the air traffic controller who could still see them and see the other plane that they hit, and they were in communications.
They said they saw it.
Yeah,
whether it was the right one or not.
Right.
They claimed to see it.
So if the tracking was disabled, how is air traffic controller still able, or unless there was some other location?
Unless they saw a plane 3 miles away somehow, or yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know either. But that footage is awful.
It is.
And what about locking the people up? I mean, what?
What law did they break?
Right? Exactly. Filming a military? I don't know. That's hopefully that's being looked into.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea, but
I would think yeah, that needs to be. I don't understand why they're locked. They need to explain that to us.
Yeah. Well, we'll get a chance next week to see if that's developed any. Hopefully it will have, because there's a lot of questions on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything else before we move on to the last?
No, that's it for that particular segment.
So, for the last bit, we've been discussing it the entire time, right? Which there's just this concerted attack on the left. It's been hard to watch, all of the cries of fascism and authoritarianism and dictatorship and all of this. I just don't. Is there no way for the people on the left to say, okay, look, we lost. Let's see what happens, right? Let's give him time to do his thing. I mean, they were talking about filing, I don't know whether they actually got filed, but articles of impeachment on day 17, which is just lunacy. I don't, especially when the Republicans have the House and the Senate. But is there no, this kind of gets back to a discussion you and I had when we were watching the Ben Shapiro video. We were talking about, and by the way, shout out to Benny Johnson. He's I've seen a few of his videos, but when we were talking about Shapiro, it was do we want to make sure we watch our posture as we approach this and try to approach it in a way that doesn't just make every left-wing person out there feel like a nut job, like look how crazy they are, but instead try to maintain this position of justifiable accuracy and be humble about it. And I don't guess I can ask other people to be humble, but at least try to have some humility, right? Some grace in victory. And I mean, I don't know. That's not what we're seeing playing out. Well, I'm not critiquing the right as much. I guess I'm just saying they're not giving him a chance to be valid, to be correct. And you would think the Democrats would be just as concerned about all of the misspending and all of the problems that are being looked at and welcome an audit, but that doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah, it's like the issues that are present, they are ignoring them because the opposition is highlighting them.
Right.
Oh, we don't care. We don't like you. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do everything we can to discredit what you're doing and what you're trying to do.
You can't look at our budget that way.
Right. You don't have access.
You don't get to look at our budget.
You might look at my social security number.
Right.
Which technically, all of our information is everywhere.
Of course.
Because every, 3 months we get a letter. Sorry, your information was stolen.
Used 31 times on the dark net.
Right, right. Yeah. And sign up for this service to give you 3 years of credit protection.
Right.
So that's the least of our concerns. We want the country as a whole to not be in bankruptcy, to not have all of these exuberant expenditures that are going nowhere, and putting us in debt and in jeopardy. Right?
And how did you expect him to do a budget review without reviewing the budget? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
and why are we acting so shocked? Like,
on.
Everybody's clutching their pearls, like they're looking at the budget.
Or maybe they don't know what the word budget means, right?
I don't know. I think they know, and they just want to play like they don't. I think they're hoping they can stop him. I mean, that's my guess. Is that they're hoping that this can be stopped because they want control of it. I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm guessing.
They want control of the money printer,
right?
They don't see a way out. They just want keep printing and for their budget
keep spending,
to be maintained,
and keep justifying the budget. Yeah, that's my guess.
Yep.
But I don't know. Time will tell.
Yep.
So, well, you have anything else you want to cover? We can shut down a little bit early this evening.
I like looking at all this this paper on the desk. I don't know if y'all can see.
They can't see it. All these stacks of hundreds. Got all the denominations here.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're hilarious. They came from China. I got them from China, and they have things that are written on them that I'm pretty sure are derogatory to America.
Oh yeah, so we can't show.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let it be read, but they are interesting. It does look like we've got 30 grand sitting on the table.
Feels great.
Right? We should throw it up in the air, roll around it.
Budget surplus over here.
Budget surplus on this end, that's right. No audits, though.
There's that.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great night and great week.